Day and night and day, the living creatures give their praise to Him who lives eternally. They never cease from saying, Holy, holy is Yahweh Almighty, worthy, worthy to receive all glory.
Well, hello. Welcome to Heart of the Tribe. My name is Chelle Wagner, and I'm so glad you came to join me today. I'm going to be presenting on this series in my Kings and Prophet series. I've been working on it for several years. There's many videos on the playlist, whether you're watching on Brighteon or whether you're watching on YouTube. There's a playlist that you can start from the beginning to the end to see it, the whole thing. But it really kind of tells a story, and I'm down to the last few episodes of it. So I believe I have, maybe two more after this one, maybe just one more. We'll just see how long they are. But it tells a story of how the nation of Yasharel were taken into captivity, how they were, brought into being a nation and had their first king, and all the prophets that served, the many kings that served, and all the different kings, and what the story was, and how they desperately, they had a king that wouldn't obey Yah the way that he was supposed to in King Saul, and the kingdom was ripped from him. And it starts with the prophet Samuel telling him, this kingdom's going to be ripped away from you because of your disobedience, and it's given to a man who has a heart for God, for Yah, and that's King David. And then it goes all through, all the different kings and the split of the kingdoms. And what I've done, what happens to all the people that were known as Yah's peoples, they're scattered into the nations, so far scattered into the nations that they really don't understand who they are anymore, and that was their punishment. And it's an interesting day to live in, because the promises that I've been looking at in the prophets as we present this is that one day, a day will come when Yah will say, okay, that time period's over. Now I'm going to shake everything that can be shaken, and I'm going to find my people where they are scattered into every nations, black and yellow, red and white, all are precious in his sight. And he is going to put his hand upon his people and extract them out of the nations and bring them back into their own land. And what a day to be alive. So we're looking at what it was like for them as they were scattered in, and we're making some correlations as what it's like to live through a time period where he's bringing us back out. So anyway, with that, I'm going to add my PowerPoint to the stage, and we're going to get started. And what we're on today is 2 Kings chapter 24. We're looking at 2 Kings chapter 24 and the book of Jeremiah. There's going to be several things out of the book of Jeremiah, because he was the prophet who was having to live through giving Yah's message that this was happening to a whole bunch of people that really didn't want to hear that message. And it was hard on him. And so we're going to look at what that was like for him. All right. So I've entitled this Acceptance of the Destruction of Your Nation. How do you accept that? It's a very, very difficult time period. All right. So the first thing's acceptance. Let's talk about acceptance for a minute. It is, what a concept acceptance is. We have to accept things that we absolutely have no power to change. That's always difficult when it comes to the ways of our king and human ways, right? Things that we have to remember. He says that his ways are up here, our ways are down here. There are things, he sees the whole picture. We see our own little portion, or what he allows us to see. We don't have his big picture view. So this acceptance, it just doesn't come easily or naturally, especially when we find ourselves having to accept what we find abhorrent, unthinkable, just awful, and because it's taxing to the soul. you know in North Carolina, I feel like our whole state, and maybe a good portion of the country, because it didn't just affect our state, but many states, after Hurricane Helene, many of us are finding the situation that's happening right now absolutely unthinkable, horrific. I can't even begin. It almost feels like you're in a little bit of shock, as report after report of the unthinkable keeps coming in, and we're thinking about such suffering going on, and that can be really, really hard to deal with. And I think that when Yah is in the business of shaking everything that can be shaken, we can expect that our souls are going to be shaken through this. This is not easy, and that's why we've got to have rock solid faith in who the king is, because otherwise the enemy will use it against you and drag you into despair rather than into acceptance. There's a huge difference between despair and acceptance. We have to accept things and put our faith and our trust in Yah, but it's not easy. We don't want to allow ourselves to fall into despair. And I think that that's a real easy to do as humans. And I think that that's what Paul was trying to warn us about in all of his writings, where he talked about the great falling away, and the apostasy of the end days church, the end time people, and how many would get offended with God and fall away because things don't look the way that they thought they would look. Because the teaching of the church has been, for the whole time that I've been in the church, that there would be a rapture, that you hear things like, well, Jesus isn't going to beat up his bride. Well, these are man-made constructs. Nowhere in scripture do you see that written. That is I like to call it hopium. Right? It's something that's not real. But it's all right for us when we have that rock solid faith, is what gives us the ability to believe that, even though it's like Stephen being stoned for his faith, right? He did not necessarily think beforehand that he would have been able to stand there glorifying God as he was being stoned to death, right? No one thinks that they have the ability to do that. Yet, Yah promises us through his word that when we are in the situation that we find ourselves in, he will give us what we need in that moment. And that's faith. It's walking through and believing that you're going to be able to stand the test and pass the test, because we've been preparing, right? If you're a child of his, we've been preparing for these tests. We've been studying his word. We've been praying. We've been doing, what we know to do, and getting ourselves ready. And now we're going to have to stand for our faith to be tested. Can we watch destruction coming on the entire nation and still stand strong? And that's what I hope that we're getting prepared here to do. And that's, my reason for doing these is so that we will have strong faith right when we need it. Okay. So it doesn't come easy or naturally to accept what we find unthinkable, yet we know it's true because Yahweh said it, and we know him, and he never lies. So what we're going to do now, we're going to look at a conversation between Yahweh and Jeremiah as the faithful prophet who knows truth when it's revealed to him, yet still struggles with the weightiness of that truth on his soul and on his emotions. Why is that? People sometimes have a habit of putting those who walk closely with Yah as if they should be better, right? As if they should rise above. Yah gives his gifts to whom he chooses to give his gifts. but it doesn't take away that person's humanity. That person, even if they've been given the gift of being a prophet to the nations, it doesn't mean that they're not fully human and feel everything and have all their struggles, because there was only one sinless one who ever walked on planet Earth, and his name is Yahusha. And there has never been another one, and there never will be except for him. He is the only sinless human that ever lived on this earth. And so the rest of us struggle with our soul and with our humanity, right? And it's not easy, no matter the giftings you've been given. All right, so let's start. We're in Jeremiah chapter 12 is where we're getting started. So we're reading verses 1 through 4. It says, "Righteous are you, O Yahweh." And I'm reading right now from the Sefer. I tend to switch back and forth between the Sefer and between the New Living Translation. I love the richness of the Sefer. I love the Hebrew, and one, because it has helped me make connections because of all the names that people like to skip over when they're reading through. When you start to look at those and you see the Hebrew in it, there's a consistent line that helps us understand bridges between what we consider the Old Testament scriptures and then the Psalms and the prophets. And then we go into the New Covenant scriptures, because it is one book from the first page of it to the last page of it. And it's to really understand Yah and his character, you've got to understand that he wrote one word from front cover to back cover, and he is consistent all the way through. He says he changes not, and he doesn't. So we're starting in the Sefer right now. So it says, "Righteous are you, O Yahweh, when I plead with you, yet let me talk with you of your judgments." Right? So Jeremiah is having a conversation one-on-one with our Heavenly Father. "Wherefore does the way of the wicked prosper?" He's like, why do I look around and all these people that are doing so wickedly, and I can see it? Why are they prospering? It's a burden on his soul to see the wicked seemingly getting away with what they are getting away with. "Wherefore are they happy that deal very treacherously? You've planted them." He's like, you're the creator of all, y'all. You're the one who put them here. "Yea, they have taken root. They grow. Yea, they bring forth fruit. You are near in their mouth and far from their mind." So they're bringing forth fruit, but it's not good fruit. It's toxic fruit. It must be GMO fruit. Right? It's been modified, because it's not the good fruit that we find in Galatians, right? The fruit of the Spirit. It's not the fruit of the Spirit that he's seeing. The fruit, this is how we can judge and measure things, by the fruit that we see. We are fruit inspectors. We are to be fruit inspectors. When people will say, "Well, don't judge, don't judge, don't judge." No person on earth has really the power to judge another soul. That is reserved for Yahusha alone. He is the judge, and he will do his judging in his good timing, right? But here we are able to inspect fruit and see, is this good fruit or is this bad fruit? And you'll see more of that in this presentation. All right. So it says, "They bring forth fruit. You are near in their mouth, but far from their mind." So he's not just, when he's speaking of the wicked, we like to, when we look at scriptures, think that if Yah's speaking of the wicked, he's speaking for those out there. He's dealing with the wicked that are presenting themselves as the righteous. Okay. Because he's saying you're near in their mouth. So he's talking, they've got Christianese speak, they've got religious speak going on, but their fruit is rotten. It's not the fruit of the Spirit, because he's saying right now, they're being very wicked, and yet they're saying things that sound like they could be from you, yet you're nowhere near in their mind and in their heart. So let's continue what Jeremiah is saying. "But you, O Yahweh, you know me. You've seen me. You have tried my heart toward you." It means Jeremiah's saying, you have had your thumb on me. You have put me through the ringer. You've put me through the test to see, was I truly yours or not? That's what Yah does with his people. He tests our faith. He tests who we really are. Are we fair weather friends? Or do we really believe no matter what it cost us? Our faith is always tested because we are in a time of separation. He is separating the sheep from the goats. He is looking at who is wheat and who's a tare. We're all in the house together, and now he's putting our individual lives through test to find out what do you really believe. I hear what you're saying, but what have you really put in your heart? He's the only one who can see into every human heart and know what is truly there. All right. So he says, you've tried my heart towards you. Pull them out like sheep for the slaughter. At this point, Jeremiah's begging, do something with these evil. I've had all I can take, is what he's saying. Prepare them for the day of slaughter. How long shall this land mourn, and the herbs of every field wither, for the wickedness of them that dwell therein? The beasts are consumed, and the birds, because they said, he shall not see our last end. See, he's talking about the wicked there that feel like, Yah doesn't really know what's going on. They don't understand. Yah sees everything. He knows every thought. He sees every deed. He watches everything we type on social media, every thumbs up that we give something. He sees every bit of it. All right. So now Yah's going to give his answer to Jeremiah. So we're in verse 5. And he says to him, and this is so funny. This has happened to me. What I'm about to read to you has literally happened to me. In 2016, I'd had a very bad report, and into 2017, it was becoming very difficult. It was bad financially. It was bad physically. It was bad emotionally. It was bad friendship. I mean, it was so hard. It was one of the hardest periods of my life. And I was standing in my home that had been gutted because of mold, and we were trying to restore it, and it wasn't going to happen. And my husband's out working at a low paying job because it was all he could find at the moment, because we'd lost our business. We were losing everything, and it was so hard. And I was standing in my kitchen sink that was propped up on 2x4s because I didn't even have any cabinets anymore. I'm standing on subflooring because all my floor's been ripped out. And I'm standing there, and I said, I'm crying, and I said, oh yeah, I just need an answer from you. I just don't think I can take it anymore. This is just too hard. It's just too hard. Would you give me a word? And I heard Jeremiah 12:5. And this is what it said. If you've run with the footmen and they have wearied you, then how can you contend with the horses? And if in the land of peace wherein you trusted they wearied you, then how will you do in the swelling of the Yarden, of the Jordan River, right? When it swells up and overflows its banks, right? When the floods come, is what he's saying. I mean, that even means more to me today. But right then I said, are you kidding me? Are you telling me it's going to get worse than this? Because at that moment, I couldn't imagine it getting worse than this. Well, it has, and it does, and it will continue to, right? And so he shook me right then and said, "You better put on your big girl boots, right, and get ready for what all's coming on the nation." And so, I mean, that really got my attention, and I think it got Jeremiah's attention too, because so Yah continues with him. For even your brethren in the house of your father, even they have dwelt treacherously with you. Yea, they have called a multitude after you. I mean, Yah is telling him right here, all the people that were pretending to be your friends that you went to the temple of Yah with, and they respected you as a leader and respected you as a prophet, they're all about to turn on you, Jeremiah. That's what he's saying. And he says, they have called a multitude after you. They're gathering their forces. They're slandering you, and they're gathering their troops, right? To do away with you because they don't like your message. Believe them not, though they're going to speak fair words to your face. I have forsaken my house. I have left my heritage. I have given the dearly beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies. Do you see what Yah's heart is here? He's saying, I tried gathering them with my goodness, and the more blessings I poured out on them, the more self-sufficient they became. The more sure of themselves they became. They decided they didn't need me anymore. These are my dearly beloved. They're the dearly beloved of my soul. We don't often think about the emotions of our king, right? Our creator, and what it cost him when we turn our back on him. But he's saying, this is the only way I could save any of them, because they were going off on their own. So I've given the dearly beloved of my soul into the hand of her enemies. My heritage is unto me as a lion in the forest. It cries out against me. Therefore have I hated it. My heritage is unto me as a speckled bird. When you look at that in the Hebrew, we take that back. It's like a hyena that has spots. It is an unnatural thing. It is a lab created being. It is a chimeric creature. It's something that man has created. So he's saying they've altered themselves, right? It's not what I created them to be. They have, I mean, you can see it in our modern day medical and all the different things. Let's just put a chip in your brain. Let's just make you part computer, part human, right? Transhumanism. This is where this is going. When we're told in Matthew 24 that the day of Yah, right before Yeshua returns, will be like the day, what it was in the days of Noah. This is what history tells us. There's so much evidence that lab created beings were here, that the technology far surpasses what we're even seeing yet today on the earth. I mean, I think we're going to see the technology increase to ways that are just unbelievable, and that these things will be revealed. But there's historical evidence that it was like that before. And so that's what we're looking at coming on the earth again. So he says, my heritage is unto me as a lion in the forest. It cries out against me. Therefore have I hated it. My heritage is unto me as a speckled bird, a chimeric creation. The birds round about are against her. Come ye, assemble all the beasts of the field, come to devour, right? I'm writing a book right now, and I've just finished the part on the animal apocalypse. And all of these, when we're looking at these beasts of the field, it's very, very interesting, because all the beasts of the field, in fact, Dr. Pigeon and I did a show about it where we brought out some of it not long ago, a few months ago, to where these beasts represent specific nations and specific people groups. So if you didn't get to catch that show, go back and watch the one that Dr. Pigeon and I did, and look for my book that'll be coming out. All right. Picking up in verse 10, says, many pastors have destroyed my vineyard. Boy, isn't that true? You know, look at some of the mega churches of today. It's become a show. I've walked in many of them, and it looks like I can hardly tell whether I'm at a concert or whether I'm in a church service, because it's all about the smoke machines and the light machines and let's just give a quick encouraging word. But they have not prepared the people for the destruction that is coming upon this nation. It says, my pastors have destroyed my vineyard. How do they destroy it? By not building people's faith, by not being real, by not being honest, by not preparing them for the hardships that are coming when you live in an apostate nation that is ready to be judged by Yah. They have trodden my portion underfoot. How have they done that? They've robbed the people. I have seen such abominable things, given, I know there's 10 people out there that have $10,000 that need to give into this anointed offering, and they're going to be blessed. We're just going to keep pushing for it. This is not Yah. That is not the voice of Yah. That is a greedy man trying to build his own kingdom. It has nothing to do with who Yah is. If you're in a church like that, all I can say is run. Run away fast and take your purse with you. All right. They have made my pleasant portion a desolate wilderness. It's a place, we consume our food, our drink. We're told, taste and see that Yah is good. How do we do this? Out of his word being preached. Well, when his word is corrupted and made falsified and made dirty, and he's not represented correctly, people are put in a desolate wilderness. There's a famine for the word of Yah. They've made it desolate, and being desolate, it mourns unto me. The whole land is made desolate because no man lays it to heart, right? They're not able to take in the truth because it's not being spoken. So people aren't meditating on what's real and what's true. The spoilers are come upon all high places through the wilderness. For the sword of Yahweh shall devour from the one end of the land, even to the other end of the land. No flesh shall have peace. Now, this is what it was like as he was scattering them into captivity. And what happens with the prophetic message is the prophetic message, the reason Jeremiah is still for today. Prophetic messages, in my mind, it looks like a DNA spiral that is still spinning around, but it's going forward. That's what time is like when it comes to the prophetic message. It's not a one and done thing. It's his word is timeless. It's for the people of today, and we're to learn from it. It's for all scripture is given for our learning, our admonition to bring us into truth and to help us understand the times and seasons in which we live, and to be able to understand the character of the God that we serve, right? This is what it's for. And so when I look at prophecy and these messages, this is just as much for today as he's going to bring us back out of captivity. It's going to be a cataclysmic event. It was cataclysmic going in, and it's going to be cataclysmic coming out. But the way that, if I could picture it, it would look like a DNA spiral that was still moving forward, still spinning forward in time. It's repeating, but yet it's not exactly the same because we're in a different time period. I hope that makes sense. It's hard to sometimes like take the pictures that I see when I read the scriptures, and I can see it in my mind and accurately put words to what I'm seeing, right? It says, the spoilers are come upon all the high places through the wilderness, for the sword of Yahweh shall devour from the one end of the land, even to the other end of the land. No flesh shall have peace. They have sown wheat, but they're going to reap thorns. It's even though wheat has been sown, free will, free will of the individual decides whether we're going to be wheat or whether we're going to become tares, right? They put themselves to pain, but shall not profit. And they shall be ashamed of your revenues because of the fierce anger of Yahweh. All right. All right. Now into verse 14 through 17. So this portion deals with a warning to the nations that would take advantage of Yah's correction to his people and a promise of future restoration. So as they were going into captivity, Yah was saying, listen, I am punishing my people. You know how it'll say, we've seen things that, you don't mess with another woman's children, right? Let her discipline her own children, right? Because mama bears will rise up. Well, because that's my child, right? So it's the same way with Yah. He's saying, I have the right to discipline my children. But if you think you're going to sit there and mock and take advantage of it as outsiders, and come in on my children, let me tell you, I've got a message for you too, is what he's saying in this portion of scripture. And so he's going to give a stern warning to those that think that they're going to mess with his children while he's disciplining his own children. Thus says Yahweh against all my evil neighbors that touch the inheritance which I have caused my people Yasharel to inherit. Behold, I'm going to pluck them out of their land and pluck out the house of Yehudah from among them. Said, I'm going to remove my people far from you. And it shall come to pass after that I have plucked them out, I will return and have compassion on them and will bring them again, every man to his heritage and every man to his land. You know, he's talking now, he's switched from the day that he was in to the day that we are now entering into. Right. And that's what makes the prophetic messages hard to understand and discern sometimes, because he's flipping back from one time period to another time period. So now he's talking about the end time period. He's like, I see you, I see what you did, I see how that got you scattered also and brought punishment to you and put you out of place. And so he's saying right now, and I think this is going to be a really interesting thing to see, because America has always been known as the melting pot, and all the nations really, we have integrated so much, you know. And when you watch, like, um, it was said of the United Kingdom of Britain, it was the nation where the sun never set. Why? Because they set up so many different, they had so many lands that they conquered, and they would set up their government in place or they would set up a puppet government. I mean, think about, like, you look at Australia, and then coming on in, gosh, there was an old Meryl Streep movie. What was the name of that one? What was the name of that movie? Out of Africa. My mom's here with me. She's on the couch. But Out of Africa. Yeah. So in South Africa, and you saw that in the movie, right? How that's how that worked, and that British government took over. You see it in the land of India. We see it all over. I mean, this has happened over and over and over again. But we're living in a day where Yah is about to untangle all that. He's going to literally, even though we may not even know what nation, what our ethnos is and where we really are from, he's about to start unscattering, right? He's going to put people back in what he considered their heritage place. It's a very interesting day. Okay, so it says, and it shall come to pass after that I pluck them out, I will return, I will have compassion on them, and will bring them again, every man to his heritage and every man to his land. That's what he's saying. And it shall come to pass, if they will diligently learn the ways of my people, right? So what's he talking about? People that know his nature, people that know his identity, who is Yah, right? People that know his character, people that know the essence of who he is by his ruach, by his spirit, those that are carrying him. And as there are people in every nation that I believe that he will set up as spiritual leadership in those nations, because they're, like I said, red, yellow, black, and white. There are his people. There are people from every nation who have accepted Yahushua HaMashiach as their Lord and as their King. And he is strong in their heart, and his spirit is shining through them. Just like it says in Isaiah 60, arise and shine, for your light has come, and the glory of Yah shall be seen in you. No matter that darkness is covering the nations, and deep darkness, gross darkness, the people, I will shine through you in that place. All right. If you are his, that is your destiny. That is your purpose at this time. Write it down as your purpose. I have it written on my refrigerator. What is my purpose? To shine as his light in a dark world. That is my purpose. If I lose focus, I just go read it again. If my emotions get off kilter, I pass by my refrigerator and I remind myself, right? Because it's not easy to live through trying times. We are fully human. Don't be too hard on yourself if you lose it for a minute, if you're not always kind, if you're not always shining like you should, but regroup. All right. Take 10 deep breaths and regroup, because these times are going, they're guaranteed to try your soul. I guarantee you. They're probably trying your soul now, like they're trying mine, right? It's just not easy, but it was never meant to be. But if we are living through a time that the world has never seen, if you are his child, he is going to, this world has never seen. Right? I mean, I look at the stories of the persecution of the early church and I get inspired because they were being jailed, right? And they were singing and the chains were falling off, right? Because they were a people of faith. They were persecuted from place to place. And the more they were persecuted, the more his message of freedom and life and liberty and salvation, and the more it spread. And that's how it spread through the nations, because of extreme persecution. And so that's, hang on to that. Let that be your hope. It shall come to pass, if they will diligently learn the ways of my people. All right. So from the leaders that he's going to put back in those nations, right? To swear 7 oaths by my name. What is that? It's a perfection of, when you see 7, you're seeing a perfection, right? You're seeing a perfection of Yah's ways, right? We're seeing those 7 oaths. I know that they're written out in Psalm 29. Dr. Pigeon's done some teaching on that one. That you also see them in Isaiah 11:2. What are those oaths? They are oaths that I will honor Yah and Yah alone as my king. I will honor the Ruach of Yah. I will honor his gift of the Ruach of knowledge. I will honor his gift of the Ruach of counsel. I will honor, his people carry those giftings. That's what was given to us on Shavuot. I've done lots of teaching about that. Tammy and I did a huge series on that. I've done other series on that. It's all on my channel. Just look at my playlist. You'll find it. All right. It says, okay, if they will diligently learn the ways of my people to swear the 7 oaths by my name, Yahweh lives, as they taught my people to swear by Baali, right? We've been taught a false thing, and we're going to come out of that, and we're going to learn to be very sincere about who Yah is. Then shall they be built in the midst of my people, right? He's saying, I will build them a habitation. I will come and dwell with them in the midst, right, of wherever they are in the separate nations. But if they will not obey, I will utterly pluck up and destroy that nation, says Yahweh. So if you're listening to me in another nation, and this message happens to come across for you, be the leader, look for the one in whose Yah spirit, and be diligent about encouraging others to obey him and obey his ways, so that your whole nation can be safe, right? That's what we're looking for in this day. Because the ones who won't follow his day, as this shaking comes, he's going to wipe them off the map. That's what he's saying here. Nations. All right. So Jeremiah's ministry was largely during the reign of King Hosea and his sons, the last 2 kings before the captivity of Yehuda. That was the southern kingdom. The prophetic insight and message was like a torture to him. See, I've got him just like on fire, right? He was chosen specifically by Yah for a mighty work. And while being close to Yah is a blessing, the message tormented him because of the hardness of the hearts of the people. His family and friends scorned him. The religious priest looked for an opportunity to turn him into the government for imprisonment. He loved Yahweh and knew him intimately. It's just like Peter, who stated when asked during a great falling away of the people during Yahushua's ministry, where else would I go? When he was questioned by the Mashiach, are you going to leave me too? Remember that story in the New Testament when Yahushua is speaking and they don't like his message. The leadership didn't like his message, and many of them fell away. That's just too hard, right? And so, and I think even Peter was questioning him about something. So he turns to him and says, "Are you going to leave me too? Are you going to walk out too?" Right? But Peter said, "Well, once you've really seen truth, you can't unsee it. Once you know Yah in that way, you can't really just unknow him, right? It's more of a torture to your soul. No matter how hard it is what he's showing you, it's even more torture to not see it because you know him then, and you can't walk away. So the true prophetic message does not come with the praise of men or a big fan club. It is a very, very lonely and heartbreaking road to tread. But then fellowship with Yahweh is so real that the true calling cannot be denied. Jeremiah said in chapter 20, verses 7 through 12, that in trying to stay silent, instead of speaking the message of Yahweh, it was like having fire shut up in his bones. That's what it felt like to him. So, what is Jeremiah experiencing? We're going to go into Jeremiah chapter 20, verses 1 and 2, but it says he was experiencing persecution. He was going through times of despair. He felt rejected. He was betrayed. He was watching corruption on a huge scale. He saw the lies that his contemporary prophets, the ones who said they were prophets, the one who the kingship accepted as prophets, the one who the temple and the religious system accepted as the prophetic voice, he was watching them lie. He was watching them lie, 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 right? They only had a message that would be acceptable, not a real one. He was watching manipulation of the people. He was watching the gullibility of the people who trusted their leaders. And it was breaking his heart because he just couldn't get through. So in Jeremiah 20, verses 1 and 2, let's read this story. He's dealing now with one of those false prophets. His name was Pashkur. And I put it in the Hebrew because I'm using the Sefer right here because there's something very important in the Hebrew here that we need to see and look at. It says, now Pashkur, the son of Amur, the priest, who was also chief governor in the house of Yahweh, heard that Jeremiah, prophesied these things. Then Pashkur smote Yirmiyahu. Now, if you'll see on my screen, the Aleph Tav is there because the Sefer has restored the Aleph Tav. The Aleph Tav, when we see in Revelation in our English translations, I am the Alpha and the Omega. If you were looking at that in Hebrew, you would see him say, I am the Aleph and the Tav. Now, when you read Hebrew, you find all these instances where the Aleph and the Tav is just there. It's just there. And every time I see it, I'm like, oh, the faithfulness. Yeshua is showing us he's with us always. He was with Jeremiah during this hard time. He was right there in the midst of this message, right? He was standing with him. He said, I'll never leave you or forsake you, right? He was always with his people, never leaving them or forsaking them. And he was with Jeremiah as he had to go through this hard time. And it's so cool to be able to see that in the Hebrew. All right. Then Pashur smote Aleph Tav, Jeremiah, Yirmiyahu, the prophet, and put him in the stocks that were in the high gate of Benjamin. So they were up by the gate of Benjamin, which was by the house of Yahweh. So what was Pashur? We're going to look at this. Let's read verse 3 and then we'll go into some of this Hebrew. Jeremiah 20 verse 3 says, and it came to pass on the morrow that Pashur brought forth Yirmiyahu out of the stocks. So he comes back the next morning and he takes Jeremiah out of the stocks. Jeremiah then has another message for him as he's been in the stocks all night praying, talking to Yah. Yah's given him a message for Pashur. He said, Yirmiah said unto him, Yahuwah has no longer called your name Pashur, but Magur Mikhayiv. He changed his name. what your name is caught up with your destiny, right? It's a destiny. It has a proclamation of who you're to be. And so he had a name change. His destiny just got changed because of what he just did to Jeremiah and because of the lies he was telling. So pastor means a liberator, someone who was destined to liberate people, to bring freedom, to bring liberation, right? It is a pay, a shin, a het, a yod, and a resh. So if we're looking at the word picture, and if you don't understand word pictures and want to better, there's a link in my description. Go take my class over on Sefer Academy and learn about the ancient pictographs so that you can understand. The ancient pictographs gave us the word in a way that any child could have read it. And it still gives us that. If you want to understand the Hebrew, start there. It's a pure language. Okay, so what is the word picture? Pasteur was created with a gift of breath. That's what that pay is. It's the mouth, right? That would destroy. That's what the shin is. It's like a teeth that are chewing something up and would destroy the division. So that's the het. It's like a wall that divides one thing from another. Connected to principalities. You see the yod, it's like a nail, nailing something down. It connects things. Nails fasten one thing to another. And then you've got this resh, right? And it's always about principalities, right? So the things that are operating to me, and that's how I see it. Other people see it differently. This is how I see it. How principalities are operating, right? And influencing. And so his destiny, he had the gift of breath, of prophecy that would destroy that division for people and help disconnect them from the evil spirits that were trying to influence them. That was his destiny. He was destined to be an on fire prophet for Yah. And he forfeited his destiny and his name was changed. Here's what his name was changed into: Magor Passiv, right? Magor, it's different words. It's several different words. So Magor means fear, terror, right? It's a journey of chaos that's connected to principalities. So right, we get the M, the waters going up and down. You've got the gimel, the foot. It's where you're walking. What your walk is now connected to the principalities, to the resh. It's right there. Okay, in the Brown Driver Briggs, just to double check me, it means to be a stranger, right? It's a gur, a stranger who seeks hospitality, but who stirs up strife, right? So the Brown Driver Briggs really backs up what we see in the word picture. Okay, so and it's Mick Magor. So the mem is most likely a prefix, right? And that means from. All right. So it's telling you where it's coming from. And then the kassiv, it's a circle, a circuit to compass something on every side. So he's saying this is going to overtake every side of you. You're not getting back out of this thing. Your destiny has been changed. And the word picture for this kassiv, I'm not going to go through every part of it. You can see it on my screen and read it, but it just means it's a chaos of thorns that have been connected to the thorns of a house that's within a house, right? That's what Babel is. You see a bet and a bet. It's a house and a house, right? That creates confusion. Okay. So that's what we're dealing with. That's exactly what it is. The primitive root is just let me see, that's the Samic, the kebab is probably how you say it, kaviv, because it can be like sound like a B or sound like a V, but it just means to surround and encircle on every side. It is a thorn inside a house that's hidden in a house. See, that's how religious spirits work. They look like they're speaking from Yah because they're in the house of Yah, but they're sent there as a separate house, a different house. They're not really Yah's house. And that's how you know when you're dealing with a religious spirit. It comes in and it looks like it's a part of, they pretend to be a part of, but they're a separate house that's come into the house. And that's what we're seeing here. So his destiny was changed to that because of what he did. and his decisions. We work out our salvation with fear and trembling, right? All right. Jeremiah 20, verses 7 through 11. Oh, Yahweh, you have deceived me, and I was deceived. You're stronger than I and have prevailed. I'm in derision daily. Everyone's mocking me. So Jeremiah is now crying out one-on-one prayer time with Yah again. For since I spoke, I cried out, I cried violence and spoil, because the word of Yahweh was made a reproach unto me and a derision daily. Then I said, I will not make mention of him. He's like, I'm not doing this anymore. I'm not speaking to another soul. I'm not warning them. I'm not telling them. I'm tired of it. Right? He's like, I'm sitting down, I'm crossing my arms, and I'm done. Right? I can understand how he felt. Then I said, I will not make mention of him nor speak any more in his name. But his word was in my heart as a burning fire shut up in my bones. And I was weary with forbearing and I could not stay. He's telling us it was harder to not speak the word than it was to speak it. As hard as it was to speak it, and with as much persecution as came with bringing the word of Yah, the internal persecution was worse. That's what he's saying. It was so hard. For I heard the defaming of many, fear on every side. Report, say they, and we will report it. All my familiars, right? That's like the people that were my contemporaries. They watched for my halting, saying, perchance he will be enticed and we shall prevail against him. They were hoping to get rid of him. The false prophetic was wanting to get him out of the way. And we're going to take our revenge on him. They were plotting and planning what they had in store for Jeremiah. But Yahweh is with me as a mighty, terrible one. Therefore, my persecutors shall stumble, and they shall not prevail. They shall be greatly ashamed, for they shall not prosper. Their everlasting confusion shall never be forgotten. All right. Verses 12 and 13. But O Yahweh Zavaot, who is this? This is the Lord of the host of all the angel armies. All right. This is a name of Yeshua that you see show up over and over in the Old Testament. It shows up in the book of Jeremiah more than any other place, but it also shows up very much in the book of Revelation. This is the host of all the angel armies. This is Jesus with his angels coming back, right? But O Yahweh Zavaot, that try the righteous and see the mind and the heart, let me see your vengeance on them, for unto you have I opened my cause. Sing unto Yahweh, hallelujah, Yahweh, for he has delivered the soul of the poor from the hand of evildoers. I think that Jeremiah was able to see, as hard as his message was, it was delivering some. You know, it's like that story of the thousands of sand dollars that have washed up on the beach, and there's the one man, right, walking down the beach and throwing them back in one at a time. And somebody comes up and says, there's no way you're going to make a difference. Look how many there are. You can't possibly make a big difference here. You would never be able to do all this. And the guy that's picking them up and throwing them back picks up one, throws it in the ocean. He said, well, I made a difference to that one. Sometimes that's what it is. We just have to take our victory one at a time and do what we can. Just because we don't see ourselves affecting, thousands or whatever, you don't give up. If it's one, it's one. That's one soul. Think about it. Every person, Yah put his breath in us, or we wouldn't be breathing. We breathe at his pleasure. So every soul is his creation. Every one matters. If you're only able to affect one, hallelujah, you affected one. If you affect 10, hallelujah, you affected 10. If you're one of those that he chose to affect thousands, well, hallelujah, you affected thousands. But all of them are important, every single one. So do what you can do. So he was enduring shame, failure. Most wouldn't listen to him. And he's, You can just see the anguish of his heart. How do you accept it? How do you witness it? Can my heart take it? The burden of Yahweh. He's just and righteous in all his ways, but his ways aren't always easy for us, especially when for the prophetic voice like that. So here's what Jeremiah had to say. And here's where we see his humanity shined out. I've read this and I struggled with this passage of scripture because I think it's hard for me to see the might of Jeremiah's ministry and yet accept this level of his humanity. Right now we see his despair, but Yah put it there so that we could understand how human he was, because he's saying he's no respecter of persons, right? He can use any of us that will fully give ourselves to him. It's amazing what he can do with a submitted life. He translates us out of the kingdom of darkness and into the kingdom of light. And if you'll fully give yourself to it, who knows what he might do with your life. So be encouraged that don't let your low moments defeat you. Let's look at Jeremiah's low moment. Here's what he said. Cursed be the day in where I was born. Let not the day wherein my mother bore me be blessed. Cursed be the man who brought tidings to my father, saying, a male child is born unto you, making him very glad. And let that man be as the cities which Yahweh overthrew and repented not. And let him hear the cry in the morning and the shouting at noontide, because he slew me not from the womb, or that my mother might have been my grave, and her womb to be always great with me. Wherefore came I forth out of the womb to see labor and sorrow, that my days should be consumed with shame. That was his low moment. He was watching the unimaginable in slow motion, day by day. Living through the destruction of a nation takes a while. It becomes known as the years of war, the years of famine, the years of plague, the years of death, the hard time. In conversation, you can hear it. Remember when we were taken captive? Remember when we became slaves? Remember our days of despair, our days of terror? It's seen in the Bible as Jacob's time of trouble, Yaakov's time of trouble. It's seen as the day of the Lord, the day of Yahweh. Lamentations become the songs of the era. That's how it looks. Sorry, I'm switching things around on my thing. There. All right. Now let's start comparing it to Second Kings. So all that was the introduction. Now we're getting to the message of Second Kings. It's hard to understand these messages of Kings in their fullness and what was happening without going back and forth with the prophetic message that was taking place. All right, so 2 Kings 24, verses 1 and 2. In his days, Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, came up, and Jehoiakim, which is it's spelled Jehoiakim in your English translations, became his servant 3 years. Then he turned and rebelled against him, and Yahweh sent against him bands of the Chaldeans. This is translated the Chaldeans. I'm writing a lot about that in my book. In fact, that's the section I'm working on right now. Okay, after I get myself moved. So, and Yahweh sent against him bands of the Chaldean and bands of the Aramim. All right, the Aram, that would have been the country of Aram, and bands of the Moabim, that would have been Moab, which I believe now is Jordan, the land of Jordan, if we were going to compare it to today's times, and bands of the children of Ammon, and sent them against Yehudah to destroy it, according to the word of Yahweh, which he spoke by his servants, the prophets. So now he's just given the facts. This is what's happened, right? So the king of Babel, who is Nebuchadnezzar, and his name means may Nebu protect the crown. right, has demanded servant payments from the king Jehoiakim of Judah, of Yehuda. So, Nebuchadnezzar is the world cap. He's the king of the world, basically, right? We always, the superpower, he has superpower status, and he is the king of that country. So people they bow down to his wishes. That's how it works when you're superpower. That's why superpower status is so sought after. So he's now demanded payments from the king of Judah, King Jehoiakim. He complies for 3 years. So the king's like, all right, we got to make this payment. We got to make this payment, right? But then he decides enough of this, and he rebels against making those payments too. So Yahweh himself, right? Because Yah sets up kings and takes down kings. No person is in authority and power except that Yah put them there. Now, that's a big pill to swallow. And it's going to be a huge pill to swallow in this nation it is my personal belief that Kamala Harris will be the next president of the United States of America. And it's going to be a hard pill to swallow to understand that nobody gets in that position except that Yah puts them in that position for his purposes. We're going to see what happens, right? We're watching it play out. We're living through it. Okay, so he's complied, he's made those payments, but then he's tired of it. So then Yah himself sends bands of enemies against him to destroy the country as proclaimed by his prophets, right? He was certainly threatened with a coup of his government and that a new puppet government would be installed who would comply with Babylon. For this is the mark of how Babylon retains their iron grip of control on other nations to make them do their bidding. This is how superpowers behave. That's how it works. So I got a picture of the U in there. All right. Verses 3-5 of 2 Kings 24. Surely all the commandment of Yahweh came this upon Yehuda to remove them out of his sight for the sins of Manasseh. And we've covered that in the last few episodes. So if this is your first episode, go back and you'll see it. According to all that he did, and also for the innocent blood that he shed, for he filled Jerusalem with innocent blood, which Yahweh would not pardon. Now the rest of the acts of Jehoiakim and all that he did, are they not written in the Sefer of the Chronicles of the kings of Yehuda? So one thing we can be certain of, Yahweh is the same yesterday, today, and forever. The nation of America is filled with innocent blood, crying out for vengeance. The blood literally cries. Yah, okay, our Heavenly Father has to hear it. He hears it. This judgment of America is certain. This occurred to the fourth generation of Manasseh, right? It can go along, it goes along, but then it happens. The judgment comes. It may not come in the day of the evilest king, but it will come. And the generations that follow have to endure it. Jeremiah 17:1 says, the sin of Yehuda is written with a pen of iron. When Jeremiah wrote this, it was years away. But he said the judgment was certain. If something's written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond, right? The hardest gem that we know of, it means it will not be undone. The words that were used here are to tell us there is nothing that is going to change this. It is set. It cannot be prayed away. It is set. At this point in time, the judgment of America is set. It will happen. We cannot pray it away at this point. Pray for individuals. Pray for the people that are in your sphere of influence. Pray for whoever Yah lays on your heart. Make a difference, individual to individual. But this nation is not going to be saved. It's not. It is just like in ancient days, it was written with a pen of iron and with the point of a diamond. It is graven upon the table of their heart and upon the horns of your altars. It's not going away. Jeremiah 22, verses 11 through 15. We're going to see, I'm in the New Living Translation now because it's just easier. Sometimes all the Hebrew's really hard, and I know it's hard to hang in there with it. And sometimes it's more important that we just hear the story. I do tend to use the personal pronouns that I am comfortable with, but I want you to be able to understand easily what's being said. For this is what Yahweh says about Jehoahaz, who succeeded his father, King Hosea, and was taken away as a captive. He will never return. He will die in a distant land and will never again see his own country. That was the judgment upon him. And Yahweh says, what sorrow awaits for Jehoiakim, who builds his palace with forced labor. He builds injustice into its walls, for he makes his neighbors work for nothing. He does not pay them for their labor. You think about the inequality of our governmental leaders. Think about Nancy Pelosi during the pandemic saying, let them eat ice cream because she had filled her freezer full of ice cream. Do you remember that? It's such injustice. It's such callousness of heart, right? And that's what we see in the leadership. And he's saying this is what these leaders have built their palaces with. It's with injustice, and Yah has seen every bit of it. They're not paying them for their labor. He says, I will build a magnificent palace with huge rooms and many windows. I will panel it throughout with fragrant cedar and paint it a lovely red. But a beautiful cedar palace does not make a great king. Your father Hosea also had plenty to eat and drink, but he was just and right in all his dealings. And that is why our Elohim blessed him, right? He's trying to get through to him. You know, you're being evil, thinking that that's where your blessings are going to come from. You're being greedy, but your father was a good king, and Yah blessed him for it. Jeremiah 22:16 through 20. He gave justice and help to the poor and needy, and everything went well for him. Isn't that what it means to know me, says Yahweh, right? To know him means we're generous. We have faith that he has enough for us and others. But you have eyes only for greed and dishonesty. You murder the innocent, oppress the poor, and deal and reign ruthlessly. Therefore, this is what Yahweh says about Jehoiakim, son of King Hosea. The people will not mourn for him, crying to one another, alas, my brother, alas, my sister. His subjects are not going to mourn for him, crying, saying, alas, our master is dead. Alas, his splendor is gone. He will be buried like a dead donkey, dragged out of Jerusalem and dumped outside the gates. Weep for your allies in Lebanon. Shout for them in Bashan. Search for them in the regions east of the river. See, they are all destroyed. No one is left to help you. This is what it's like when he overthrows governments. Jeremiah 22:21 through 23. I warned you when you were prosperous, but you replied, don't bother me. You have been that way since your childhood. You simply will not obey me. This is what y'all saying. I'm trying. I'm trying so hard to get through to you. But you're like, yeah, go away. We have all that we need. And now, when will blow away your allies? All that, well, we have friends there. You know, we have our interest in 180 countries and whatever. He's saying the wind, which is the breath, the ruach, Yah's will being done on the earth, will blow your allies away. Suddenly, they won't be your friends anymore. All your friends will be taken away as captives. Surely then you will see that your wickedness and be ashamed. It may be nice to live in a beautiful palace paneled with wood from the cedars of Lebanon, but soon you will groan with pangs of anguish like that of a woman in labor, right? Isn't that what we're told in Matthew 24? That as these things begin to come upon the earth, it will be like labor pangs coming upon a woman. They never decrease, they increase the whole time. It's not going to let up. 2 Kings 24, 6 through 7. So Jehoiakim, and I'm back in the Sefer now. So Jehoiakim slept with his fathers, and Jehoiakim, his son, reigned in his stead. And the king of Mitzrayim, this is Egypt. Mitzrayim is Egypt. The king of Mitzrayim came not again anymore out of his land because they were thinking they're going to make some deal, right? For the king of Babel had taken from the river of Mitzrayim unto the river of Parath all that pertained to the kingdom of the king of Mitzrayim. So the king Babel, they were increasing in strength and power. You can see here's the Red Sea down here on the map that I've got, and here's the Babylonian Empire at that time. You can see they were the superpower of the world. 2 Kings 24, 8 and 9. Jehoiakim was 18 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned in Jerusalem 3 months. And his mother's name was Nehushta, the daughter of Elnathan of Jerusalem. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that his father has done. So he only got a 3-month reign, right? So here's just what it means in the names. The name Elnathan, God has given, and he said Nehushta, his mother's name, brass, right? You're not getting through. Yah's not going to change his mind. And Yahweh establishes it. That's what he said through these names. Names mean things. And that's what he was saying right there. 2 Kings 24, 10 through 12. At that time, the servants of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, came up against Jerusalem, and the city was besieged, right? So they have surrounded it. To besiege it means no one's getting in or out. Whatever you've got, but they have surrounded you, right? No supplies in, nobody's getting out unless you're coming out to surrender to the enemy because you've been besieged. You are surrounded on every side and all your options are gone. And Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, came against the city, and his servants did besiege it. And Jehoiakim, the king of Yehuda, went out to the king of Babel, he and his mother, and his servants, and his princes, and his officers. And the king of Babel took him in the 8th year of his reign. So he decided to go on out. They were probably running out of food. So let's switch back. Let's see what Jeremiah was telling us about this. Was because he witnessed it all, right? So Jeremiah in chapter 22, verse 24 said, as I live, says Yahweh, though Kanyahu, the king of Yahuakim, so this is Kaniah, the son of Jehoiakim. It's hard to switch back and forth between the Hebrew and the English, so I'm giving it to you what it says in the English translation. The king of Yehuda were the signet upon my right hand, yet would I pluck you up thence. So Kaniah is another name for Jehoiakim, and it means Yahweh will establish this. That's what he was saying. Again, the name means something. Jeremiah 22, 25 through 28. It says, and I will give you into the hand of them that seek your life, and into the hand of them whose face you fear, even into the hand of Nebuchadnezzar, king of Babel, and into the hand of the the Chaldeans. And they were the magicians. They were the sorcerers. They were the black magic practicers. So he says, I'm going to give you into their hands. And I will cast you out, and your mother that bore you into another country where you were not born, and there shall you die. But to the land whereunto they desire to return, thither shall they not return. He says, you're never coming back. Is this man Kanyahu a despised broken idol? Is he a vessel wherein is no pleasure? Wherefore are they cast out, and he and his seed, and are cast into a land which they know not. So you're hearing the prophetic voice. You're seeing this is what Yah is saying about him, right? Jeremiah is relaying that. Then in Jeremiah 22, 29 through 30, he says, O earth, 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 hear the word of Yahweh. Thus says Yahweh, write ye this man childless. He's saying his seed line's done. A man that shall not prosper in his days, for no man of his seed shall prosper, sitting upon the throne of David and ruling any more in Yehuda. His lineage was done. Second Kings 24, 13 and 14. And he carried out thence all the treasures of the house of Yahweh and the treasures of the king's house. And he cut in pieces all the vessels of gold, which Shalamah, king of Yasharel, had made in the temple of Yahweh, as Yahweh had said. And he carried away all Jerusalem and all the princes and all the mighty men of valor, even 10,000 captives, and all the craftsmen and smiths. None remained, save the poorest sort of the people of the land. They left the poor to take care of the land, but they took those that they thought were useful back to Babylon. Second Kings 24, 15 and 16. And he carried away Yakin to Babel and the king's mother. I love this. Her house was, her foot's chained to the house, right? And the son's tied up. And the king's women and his officers and the mighty of the land, those he carried into captivity from Jerusalem to Babylon. And all the men of might, even 7,000, and craftsmen and smiths 1,000, all that were strong and apt for war, even them the king of Babel brought captive to Babel. He took them all to his land because they were more useful to him there. He could put them into his army. So now he sets up a king of his choosing. The king of Babylon makes Matanyahu, his father's brother, king in his stead. This is 2 Kings 24, 17, and changed his name to Zedekiah, which means the righteousness of Yah. I mean, these names, Yah's just showing this is my will. So now Zedekiah, that's King Zedekiah. See, you see it, Zedekiah, right? In Hebrew, it's Zedekiah in the English. So Zedekiah is reigning in Judah at this point, and this is the very last king. So Zedekiah was 21 years old when he began to reign, and he reigned 11 years in Jerusalem. His mother's name was Hamtuah, the daughter of Jeremiah of Livna. And he did that which was evil in the sight of Yahweh, according to all that Jehoiakim had done. He just followed suit. Same type of king, same type of heart. For through the anger of Yahweh, it came to pass in Jerusalem and Yehudah, until he had cast them out from his presence, that Zedekiah rebelled against the king of Babel. So he thought he'd raise up and rebel. So Jeremiah 24 gives us that story. It says, after King Nebuchadnezzar of Babylon exiled Jehoiakim, son of Jehoiakim, king of Judah, to Babylon, along with the officials of Judah and all the craftsmen and artisans, Yahweh gave me this vision. I saw 2 baskets of figs placed in front of Yahweh's temple in Jerusalem. So now Jeremiah's having this vision. One basket was filled with fresh, ripe figs, and the other was filled with bad figs that were too rotten to eat. Here's where we see the example that we see in the New Testament about the fruit of the Spirit. This is why I say we're to be fruit inspectors. This is a theme all through Scripture. We know who are his by the fruit that person is producing in their life, right? Then Yahweh said to me, what do you see, Jeremiah? I replied, figs. Some are very good and some are very bad, too rotten to eat. Then Yahweh gave me this message. This is what Yahweh, the God of Israel, says. The good figs represent the exiles that I sent from Judah to the land of the Babylonians. I will watch over and care for them, and I will bring them back here again. I will build them up and not tear them down. I will plant them and not uproot them. He's saying this is the preservation of the seed, the good seed that I planted in the earth from the beginning, right? That will be regathered as his people. I will watch over and care for them. I'll bring them back here again. I'll build them up and not tear them down. I will plant them and not uproot them. I will give them hearts that recognize me as Yahweh. They will be my people, and I will be their Elohim, for they will return to me wholeheartedly. And as the evil figs, which cannot be eaten, they are so evil. Surely, thus says Yahweh, so I will give, this is Zedekiah, right? Zedekiah, the king of Yehuda, and his princes, and the remnant of Yerushalayim that remain in this land, and them that dwell in the land of Mitzrayim in Egypt. And I will deliver them to be removed into all the kingdoms of the earth for their hurt, to be a reproach and a proverb, a taunt and a curse, and all the places whither I shall drive them. And I will send the sword, the famine, and the pestilence among them, till they be consumed from off the land that I gave them and to their fathers. Do you not see exactly what we see in the New Testament scriptures that Yahushua gave us, that when he taught how he would separate the sheep and the goats? It's the same thing that happened then, is the same thing that will happen again and that we're living through. All right. So when we come back on my next episode, we'll be covering 2 Kings 25 and more of the prophetic message. But for now, that was it for today. I hope that this was a blessing to you. I hope it helps you in your own faith walk. And may you be blessed, and may his hand of love and protection be over your life. In the name of Yeshua, bless you. Amen.
Day and night and day, the living creatures give their praise to him who lives eternally. They never cease from saying, Holy, holy is Yahweh.